Hello, welcome biology students. Today I'd like to make a little video for you so that you can watch it on your own time to reinforce concepts. You can slow it down, speed it up, and watch it over and over again if you want. Whatever you need so that you can make sense out of this process. So today we're looking at the light-dependent reaction, which is one half of photosynthesis. So let's orient ourselves to this diagram here. Deep inside the chloroplast are little discs, and those discs are called thylakoids. So here I have drawn a thylakoid. This is the membrane of the thylakoid, and inside is called the thylakoid space. Everything outside of the thylakoid is the stroma of the chloroplast. That's kind of a liquid-based fluid area where a lot of chemical reactions can occur. So here we have, I've drawn these membrane-bound proteins here, and these all serve very important functions for this process. Okay, so let's first look at this one. It is full of chlorophyll, and it is called photosystem 2. Over here is photosystem 1, also full of chlorophyll. The reason why it's so named backwards is simply because photosystem 1 was discovered first. Since it contains chlorophyll, the photosystem 1 and 2 both can receive light energy. Okay. Now since energy cannot be created or destroyed, the light energy gets absorbed by the chlorophyll and it excites the electrons contained in the chlorophyll molecules. So I usually use E- for my electrons. So the light will shine onto the chlorophyll. It will absorb most of that energy, everything but green. And then those electrons are energized, they're excited. Once they're in that high energy state, they can be used to supply energy for the various processes in these other membrane-bound proteins. So if we just take a step back and think about the general process of photosynthesis, requires water, carbon dioxide gas, and in the presence of light, we create carbohydrates and oxygen gas. That's photosynthesis. That's as simple as it gets. So here is the spot where we add water in photosystem 2. So we will have these excited electrons. We need to do something with them. We need to be able to move them from here to there so that we can activate some of these other functions. So the thylakoid will take in water, and with the light reaction, it will split the water and steal electrons. Let's simplify this. So the water will split basically into hydrogen ions and oxygen gas. So there's our oxygen right there. It comes from the water. This, of course, will diffuse across the thylakoid membrane and then diffuse out of the chloroplast and beyond. So oxygen is created here. And the purpose of this is so there are tiny electrons inside the chlorophyll molecules that are now excited from the light. This process replaces those electrons with less energized ones and allows the energized ones to leave. They then travel to each of these membrane-bound proteins and a process called the electron transport chain. Once it gets to this, I've drawn like this little water slide looking thing, and this is a proton pump. Proton is another word for our hydrogen ions. What this will do is it will pump hydrogen ions against their normal diffusion gradient into the thylakoid space, so that this space will fill with a high concentration of hydrogen ions. Now, we know that active transport requires energy. So this pump gets its energy from those highly activated electrons that have been passed down. So the process is light shines on the chlorophyll, chlorophyll energizes its electrons. We're going to trade place with electrons from water. Then those highly energized ones can travel to power this proton pump, which will create a high concentration of hydrogen ions inside the thylakoid space. Now our electrons are depleted, so they'll be passed down the electron transport chain all the way to photosystem 2. I'm sorry, photosystem 1. Photosystem 1. Now, photosystem 1, in the same way as photosystem 2, can receive light and energize those electrons. The electrons that it has received are now re-energized and pass down the electron transport chain all the way until they attach themselves to our carrier molecules. If you remember, our carrier for electron molecules is called NADP+. The plus indicates that it has a positive charge. So, if we have some hydrogen ions floating around, which we do, and some energized electrons, which we do, we can combine NADP plus and H plus to make the highly energetic molecule NADPH. So it's a long process for us to make that one molecule, and there's a lot of dancing for the electrons moving back and forth. Okay, so let's just look at that, all of it together. The photosystem 2 contains chlorophyll. It also has this enzymatic reaction where we turn water into protons and oxygen gas. Those chlorophyll molecules will be excited and their electrons will leave, traveling along the electron transport chain, stopping here at the proton pump to pump hydrogen ions into the thylakoid space, drastically increasing the concentration of hydrogen ions inside this space. We'll pass those depleted electrons down to photosystem 1, where they'll be re-energized, and that energy will be used to assemble this molecule. Now remember that building bonds or building molecules costs energy. So here we used up the energy from the excited electrons and put it here. Breaking the bonds releases energy. So once this gets to where it needs to go, we can rip off that hydrogen and reveal those extra electrons that are available to be used. Now there's one more piece that we haven't mentioned, which is the ATP ACE. Remember, ACE means enzyme. So this is an enzyme that makes ATP. And we have seen this before. What it does is it creates a spinning motion. And that spinning motion is generated similar to the way a dam works with water. So the water will pass the turbine in a very concentrated way, will only channel the water in one way, and that will rotate the turbine very similar to this. and create electrical energy from water. So in this case, we're taking chemical energy, which is the high concentration of hydrogen ions that we've pumped inside, and we're going to channel them just like a dam through the ATPase with their normal flow of diffusion. There's a high concentration here, and there's only one exit point, and that's through this pump. The hydrogen ion going through this pump will rotate the ATPase, and that mechanical energy will be able to be used to create ATP. So first we have to have ADP, adenosine diphosphate. So this is the low energetic state. Not much going on with ADP. That will pass into this enzyme and back out as the fully energized ATP. Adenosine triphosphate. Basically, this enzyme, through the energy generated from the hydrogen ions, adds one phosphate to ADP to create ATP. NADPH and ATP will then travel to the light-independent reactions that exist in the stroma. So this will be light-independent. Independent. Oh my goodness, I can't spell. Light-independent reactions. This is where our carbon dioxide comes into play. So the plants will take in the carbon dioxide, and they'll use all of these energetic molecules to turn that carbon dioxide into long chains of carbon-based carbohydrates and lipids. So in order to build ourselves up, if we're a plant, we need to generate energy. And we generate that energy from the sun via photosynthesis. Have a nice day.